Hello, afternoon, Chiefers. Saturday afternoon. I've got to do a little bit of work today because I got to go do a kitchen, and I need to kind of fix my template plans. And I figured, why not? Let's make an advanced PBR introduction. And I'm saying that because I don't really know what the questions are that people have for PBR. I just know that I have a lot of methods, and my methods have made it really easy for me to set up and establish scenes that look very realistic without having to do much effort. And so what I needed to do today was fix a couple of my default materials. And so I'm just starting off the top. We're just going to do a generic kitchen that's most likely going to look really ugly because I just need to illustrate a few things. And so I've got a kitchen dump, which is just an architectural CAD block that has a lot of kitchen items in it that I use frequently. And let's just start off with... So I've got a kitchen sink CAD block. It's got a faucet, a sink, and then dishwasher on one side, and then like a 18-inch 3-drawer base on the other side. And then I've got oven cabinet. I've got this corner cabinet that's got a little mixer on top. This is my design plan view, which means it's got interior fixtures and furniture in the plan view, and don't show any layers on my walls, and it's just easy for me to compile a kitchen like this. So, and this is just a refrigerator block, which I think it's missing. Yeah, it's missing a panel here. So bear with me as I design a quick little kitchen. Not really going to worry about the size of these. We'll just call these custom cabinets. And this island is just not working at all in this kitchen, but let's just leave it in there to illustrate the point. And then I'm just going to dump a bunch of lights in places that they shouldn't be. And someone's going to say, you're really bad at placing lights, and that's okay. Because we're just trying to get this scene to look somewhat realistic. And let's throw a slider in here. Or two, why not? And let's throw some... By the way, if you, on your toolbar, if you click an item such as your windows, you can change the defaults. Same as cabinets, same as a bunch of different things. Which is a really quick and easy way to get to this. And I don't know that everybody knows that, but it's a good thing to know. Let's go and double case, why not? And we're going to pop some of those in here. Let's just throw one in the corner, one in that corner. Sure, why not? Let's put one on the window. Not a whole lot of shear value there. Oops. And let's take a look at what we got going on. So you're going to notice my PBR, just out of default, it's going to look better than most because I've already established a bunch of materials and I've already figured out how to make them look pretty good out of the box. But there's some things I need to fix, and there's some new tricks that I have that I haven't really put into my templates. But you can see already that just right out of just dumping this in, it looks pretty good, and it looks a lot better than what you would get out of the box Chief Architect. So a couple things is, a lot of my materials have normals maps. They also have a big one, which is reflection maps. And the reflection maps really make a difference in a scene. And let's see if we can see an example of that. Okay, so if you see on this countertop, you can see these little, you can see we've got gloss on the countertop, but you can also see we've got, that pitting that comes from granite, different hardness of surfaces, what soaks in with lacquer, polish, etc. And that really, it seems so simple, and And at the same time, it just makes all the difference in the world. The other thing that makes a difference is I've got an eased edge molding profile on these countertops, and I've got a clipped corner. So it really does make this look like stone. And when you compile all these little details together, what happens is you just get a little more realistic of a scene. And once you figure out these details and you save them as your defaults, then all of a sudden it's like I can just dump this stuff in a plan and right in front of a customer have a very realistic looking scene without having to do too much work or futz with the details in front of them. And not only that, it just saves me time in general. So I'm looking for like kind of that eased edge in a lot of details. And so one of those things is like a symbol might be a little jagged. Like you can look at this. See the outside curve of this guy? It's just a little jagged. The transitions are a little wrong. I can open this symbol up and get to its smoothing angle. And let's just crank this up. We're going to crank it up so high that we're going to get some artifacts. We're going to get something screwed up in the look of this. Let's see if we can see it. I think I see it here. Let's change the render method. Yeah, you see what happened when I cranked up that smoothing angle? It created... What happens is these are faces right here. They're triangles. They're big triangles. And when you change that smoothing angle, when it intersects with something such as this, a lot of times it splits those triangles up. So we'll crank this back down to something like 80. Okay, got rid of that artifact. And let's just see what happens in our shot here if anything changes when we crank that smoothing angle. Yeah, you see the handle, it was very subtle. Not a whole lot going on there, but the handle changed a little bit. Let's try this guy. This guy's a little jagged. Oops, I just opened him. I didn't open the symbol. You can tell I don't have a lot of direction with this video, but I think my hopes are that something that I'm going over here is going to spark some interest or a question, and those questions are going to give me a little more direction on what everybody's looking for with help for this kind of stuff. So let's just crank this guy up again. Let's put him up to 80, and let's see if we can see a difference at all. You know, I think I already saw a difference in vector because we lost this line that was right here. There was a line in vector view, and now it's gone. So what's going to happen is this guy's going to get a little bit smoother in its transitions. And it's probably going to be subtle, but again, the subtleties add up. Boy, it didn't look like anything changed, did it? I could probably crank it up again. But that's something to play with. When you've got a fixture that's kind of, you know, jagged, a lot of times you can fix that with modifying the symbol. Let's look at this. Since we're here, I want to change this. This doesn't quite look realistic. I think Chiefer, can't remember his real name, introduced this method, which is if you put a gray gradient map in a texture, you see I've got all these different colors here saved. And you can put different gradients of gray to kind of change the way that in the normal map, in your material property, to change the way that that material deals with reflection and light sources. So I'm going to crank this up, and I made it a darker gray, and hopefully this glass will start looking a little more realistic. So it's a little more see-through, but we still have all that definition, right? We've got that reflection. So that's looking really good. And let's just do the inverse just to show, you know, what happens is if we kick this off, look what happens immediately. We lose all that reflection. Let's go ahead and leave that the way it is and see what happens in the scene. Yeah, all of a sudden it doesn't look nearly as realistic. We've kind of lost the reflection up here. It looks a little cartoonish down at the bottom where the material's kind of doubled over itself. So let's grab that again. Let's go. There we go, 11. Yeah, so at the bottom we've got, that reflection came back kind of on the curve on the bottom end. I mean, you get it. You guys can play around with that. That's something that's, definitely beneficial to a scene, is if you can make some realistic looking glass. Another thing is, my recessed lights are not point lights. I mean, excuse me, they're not, I always forget the difference. They're not point lights, they're spotlights. There you go. So if we look at show position in camera view, this light's shining directly down, whereas a point light is, omnidirectional. So I want this to be a spotlight. So that's something worth doing is, and this has 2 lights per recessed light. One is got a cutoff angle of 165 degrees, so it flares out really far. And then the next one's more directional, 70 degrees. And you see the drop-off rate has to change, because if you left the drop-off rate at something like 5, it's going to put a hard pin on the ground. You're going to see a hard shadow line. And these are uploaded in, for those X11 files, I've uploaded a lot of material and content. These are in one of those posts. So take a look for them, because they work really well. And you can adjust them, but I mean, the basis of them is there, and they do a really good job of illuminating the scene and creating those soft shadows on the wall that look realistic. So another thing that I've done in this scene that's kind of important to note, and not too many, I don't think anybody knows about it. Honestly, I think I've only told one person. And that is that I'm utilizing ambient occlusion. And ambient occlusion, I'm going to do like the layman explanation of what it does. When you have an object that needs shadow, you can create that shadow with ambient occlusion. And so it can be a map that has, a certain shape to it, or it's matching, like I could make it so that the ambient occlusion map is black in all these crevices. And what would happen is these crevices would be even darker if there was no, if it was just lit by ambient light. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking this textured drywall, and let's just illustrate what I'm talking about. Let's crank this up to 100. You can already see all the shadows just got a lot darker. And watch what happens in a scene when there's no direct light up along the top of these walls. Is immediately, once this processes, I mean, that's pretty clear cut, is that because the top of these walls were just lit with ambient light, now that there's no direct light, it uses that occlusion map and creates that darker shadow. So I'm going to use like the 8 gradient gray here, and maybe we'll get a balance in this scene. More or less, it's containing these shadows up above. Same thing with the ceiling. I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm even going to do a darker one on, oops, that's the normal map. Let's do a darker one on the ceiling. Let's go up to, why not? Let's go to 11. And so the importance of this is that if I want to crank up the exposure in a scene, this can kind of help maintain the integrity of the shadows. I'm going to do it on the floor as well. And these are the things I needed to fix. I should even do these on the cabinets, and we'll see what happens when we start messing with. You're actually going to see this immediately. What's going to happen is areas that are in shadow, you're going to start seeing some of the gloss out of those shadows because it's going to pick it up from the windows. So as I move around and I catch an area that's in a shadow, it's more true to form of what you would actually see. So let's do this on the cabinets too, because we want this area to be dark. You know, it's not lit. It's like a red flag that it's telling you it needs a light over here. Looks like I already had one on there. Let's just crank it up. Why not? Here's a little pet peeve of mine with Chief is I CAD blocked this whole oven assembly, and you can see that the molding profile is kind of screwed up. And it's when I save it to my library, it's not saving the offsets of the moldings. So like this is a flat stock, so it should be -5/8, and then it should be -2. And this guy is going to be surface mount, and it's going to be -2 as well. Sorry, bear with me. That's going to drive me nuts. I've got a door that's overlaying. And I'm going to take my object eyedropper, and there's like 5 pieces here that need to be fixed. So let's just clear these. And I want to save that molding profile. Anyways, that was a quick sidestep there, but that looks a lot better. Okay, so let's see, what else do we have to go over in here? Oh, so you see all these colors on the side here. This is a really simple thing in that all I did is if you go to customize your toolbars, which you can right click on a toolbar and hit the customize, and you search place library object, there it is right there, and I go and drag this guy down to here, and let's say I've got a new material. I'm just going to put this in. I thought I had one that said neon. Let's see, solid colors, neons, sure. And let's make a new neon material. Why not? Because everybody loves neon. Let's make it neon yellow. Why not? And so you can make a new material and apply it to that place library object, right? Neon yellow, there we go. And I'm gonna click automatic, and look, it shows up in this side toolbar. And then what I can do is, for instance, for the cabinets, let's make these cabinets dark. I've got a dark brown here. I'm gonna hit my blend colors with materials, and I'm gonna paint the whole room, and we're going to change all the colors of the cabinets to dark immediately. And what a quick and clever way of doing this. And what happens is, so these cabinets all have a reflective map, just like I did in the countertops, and you can see it looks like someone with their greasy palm prints touched my cabinets, and all of that is maintained if I blend color with that material. So I only need to establish one material with a great reflective map, and then I can tint that material, especially if the base material is white. But you need to have the base material be a texture file. And to show you what I mean is, let's see, actually I've got a perfect example. Let's get back into plan view. We're gonna kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We're gonna go to entourage, accessory structures. I've got these accessory homes you can download, which are a real quick way of getting kind of, you know, an outdoor realistic view through your windows. Let's just turn this guy sideways. And if we go back to my scene, my shot, what's going to happen is right now, like the exterior sun is overexposing this house, right? Boy, did I place that poorly. I feel like that's rotated funny. Interesting. It is rotated funny. Oh, funny. Okay. Let's open the symbol. See, things I need to fix. 2D block needs to regenerate this block. There we go. That's what's going on. So let's kick this back the other way. Sorry. And let's take a look at this again. So the exterior here, I mean, it's super overblown, super overexposed. And so something we can do is let's just go out there and same thing with that ambient occlusion. And you'll see what a difference it makes when we apply that to these materials. Let's kick this to 10. My computer's going slow because it's trying to record in 4K this video while we're going, so apologies. And I'm going to leave the trim just so you guys can see what a difference this makes when we pop back into the house. Actually, you can kind of see it already, but we're going to pop back into the house, which is kind of change the way PBR views this whole scene. And let's just I'm going to go even darker. I think that was a little too dark. We're at a 10, let's go 12. You can see just a subtle change in shade makes a huge difference. I mean, look at the windows. That shadow is just crazy. It's a little too dark. We're gonna go back to see what it changes if we just go to 12. Yeah, that's kind of a split in between. It's pretty good actually. So that when we look at that house back there, it's not so blown out of exposure. Right? So this is looking pretty good. I want to change the direction of the sun real quick. I want it popping through here. Let's do a 140. And let's do negative like 22. There we go. That's cool looking, right? And actually, at the same time, I'm going to add a user added light. I only do one, but I'm going to add it right. Sun's coming in from this angle, shooting it, in this direction. I'm going to put it right over the top of these counters right here. And what's happening right now is that right now it's a point light. And we're going to change it to a spotlight. And then we're going to make it that direction angle is going to be the same direction angle as the sun was, 140. And let's do like a 180 cutoff angle, drop off rate. We'll make it 35. And then I'm going to crank this thing way, way up. We're going to go 90,000 and let's turn it red. And let's tilt it downward 15 degrees. And let's make it 60 degrees off the countertop. And let's also say it's not going to cast shadows. And I know that was a lot of info. You might need to go back and replay that if you're interested. But let's take a look at what it did to the scene. You see it popped that red color on the front of that cabinet. And we even caught some in the refrigerator. Let's crank it up even higher. I had a really high drop-off rate. Let's pop this thing up to like 150 because I really want to see what this is doing. There we go. Let that process. And so we're just getting a little bit of color on this fridge and a little bit of color on this countertop. And even on the floor a little bit, it's getting a little bit illuminated. Let's go ahead and change this color back to a sun-looking color. And that's kind of cool. We're catching a little reflection on this metal here. We're illuminating the corner of this cabinet, and we might be getting a little bit of action on this refrigerator. And it just makes a little bit of difference, right? I mean, it's not doing much, but it's definitely doing something. That refrigerator's, there's just a little bit more going on in the scene, right? Let's get a backsplash in here. Why not? I'm just gonna, if I double click on that cabinet, I get to the cabinet defaults. I can put my backsplash up. Let's say it's 18 inches tall. Let's say it's ½ inch out. And let's go, what's my backsplash material? We'll change this material. We're gonna go to one of my tiles. I think I have a, we've got tile, we've got a, probably have a gray. Let's move this guy over. White gloss, white matte tile, gloss tile with gray grout. Let's do that guy. I like that. So we've got that guy. Let's change the countertop material too. Even though that, I think we illustrated what we wanted to in that other material. Let's go to Calcutta. And I think something's wrong with this material as well. So maybe we'll get to fix that at the same time. So there we go. We've got a backsplash in the scene. We got to paint the nosing. So let's make sure we get the full room. And we don't have backsplash behind the oven. Got to draw that in. That's no big deal. That's looking pretty good. I'm gonna even change the floor. Actually, let's go ahead and, that's the wrong material. So let's get this guy here. Yeah, I don't think this has a reflection map. So we're gonna check this out. We're gonna go find something that's a dark gray gradient map to throw on this guy for the reflection under properties. So this roughness map, oh, it does have a roughness map. I didn't remember doing that. Yeah, I see the veining in there. That's from the roughness map. How cool is that? So we'll cancel that. Let's go ahead and throw a backsplash up in here. Look, it canceled my other one. That's annoying. Should have just done custom backsplash from the beginning. Now I'm just asking for trouble. But you can kind of see this kitchen's already looking pretty good. And so if I just saved all of these things just as they are, which is the whole point of me doing this, is that the next time I go to build this kitchen, it's going to look exactly like this. It's because I'm saving these defaults and I won't change them. You know, I'm not going to mess with this backsplash. It's kind of a waste of my time and yours to look at it, but I just wanted to establish the scene and kind of get the look of the scene and make a believer out of everybody that you can, you know, make a really good looking scene without too much effort. Especially if you save all of your parameters as your default in your templates. Because once I save this as the default backsplash material and that as the default counter and that as the default cabinet wood, I mean, this is going to become you know, a really quick and easy thing, a drag and drop kind of thing. So I just changed the floor material. So let's just check this guy. Same thing, missing its ambient occlusion. Let's crank it up to 11. See, I've got a weird toe kick on my double oven. Okay. What else? What else should we be looking at here? Kind of want to go over all the bases there. And I think we've gone over most things. I don't like that this looks so gray, so we probably need to turn that ambient occlusion down or do something different. Let's just take it to there. We're going to lose some of the definition up here, but I'm going to get some of that white back. The other way I can accomplish this is through a material ID mask, and maybe I'll show you guys that for anybody that's a Photoshop user. But on the whole, this kitchen looks pretty good right now without, you know, having to spend a crazy amount of time with light settings and that sort of thing. So let's just do a couple of quick tweaks here, which is we're going to send this out. And when you export these images, you really should be saving it as a PNG file, because the JPEG has some compression in it, and you'll see a lot of artifacts, and it's just not something you want. It's not going to look good. The next thing we'll do is we're going to make a kind of a luminescence map, and the only way you do that, the easiest way to do that, is we're just going to crank the camera exposure down to almost nothing. Let's go make 0.005 maybe. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to export this again, and we'll call this test kitchen luminosity.png. Okay. And let's crank this back up. And then kind of a final thing is we'll make a material ID mask, which is going to maybe be over some people's heads, but no biggie. I'm going to take this neon and I'm going to paint the whole room, all these cabinets, with this neon. And let's go ahead and paint the floor with this neon. And so that's all we need for an example. And this is going to be a material ID.png. I wish if I held this undo button, it would give me a drop-down list so I could go back 2 steps instead of sitting here and waiting. Don't you? Don't you guys wish that would happen? Man. I was thinking I was going to do one more thing, because maybe people don't know about it. It's such a basic thing, but this kitchen kind of needs it anyways. Not that this is an award-winning kitchen, but I'd like to change like the cabinet door styles. They're just shaker, and I don't know. It seems like a boring thing for this particular kitchen. So I'll keep this same camera view so that I'm not screwing up the masks that I just made. But let's go to, I've already got American Woodmark. Let's go like a 601. 610. 610? Maybe. There we go. 610 door style. Let's go 610 drawer style. That's just for those uppers. For the rest of these guys, I'm going to go back to this base cabinet, double click. Gonna go to my door drawer. Let's go library. 610 door and drawer library. So quick, easy way of changing everything in the room. And I could have changed the materials too, but I think we're okay by just painting the whole room. There you go. A little more interesting, maybe. I don't know. But worth showing people if they don't know how to do that. Anyways, let's go test kitchen diffuse. There we go. We're going to replace it. And let's kick this over to Photoshop. And so I'm just going to select all. I'm going to kick over to my diffuse. I'm going to paste it right over the top. Oops, hit the wrong button. Paste it right over the top. Same thing, select all, copy, paste over the top. I'm going to unlock this layer, drag this guy down. And I'm going to drag this guy on top. So this is a luminosity map, and I'll show you what that does. Is this is our base profile. When I take this map and I'm going to select it, I'm going to drop this down to luminosity. Watch what happens in the scene as let me kick the opacity down to like 25, maybe 30. If we kick it off, you see how bright all the recessed lights are? It kind of just cuts them down just a little bit. It also cuts the whole scene down a little bit. And then I can bring the exposure back up. You can see the exterior looks a little bit more realistic. The next thing I'm going to take a look at is, let's turn these other two off. This is our neon material mask ID. And so say I wanted to change something about the floor or about the cabinets, I can select a color range. And if I've got this fuzziness set all the way up, it's going to grab the shadows, everything else, it's going to select that whole thing. But I'm going to maintain the shadows in the room. And so when I go back to this scene right here, I can sit here and adjust. Well, let's just give an example. I can kick the brightness way down if we needed to, contrast way up, something like that. Any number of things you can do with this, which is kind of clever when you need to just adjust one component of a room. Like if I wanted to change the colors of cabinets, I'd do that same process. So a few little advanced things in there. On the whole, I was hoping this video would just kind of spark some interest with people, and that they ask some questions so that I could be a little bit more specific in the goals of my videos, because I'd love to help you guys kind of figure these kind of scenes out. Is that now I can save all these things to this default, and the next time I do this kitchen, again, I know I'm repeating myself, but the next time I do the kitchen, it's going to look like this out of the box, which means that the next time I go and do a session like this, I'm only going to improve it. It's only going to get better every time. So if you do this a little bit each time, eventually you're going to have a very realistic scene coming into PBR, and it's going to be, right in front of your customer, and they're going to be so impressed, and it's really going to set you apart from other people. So ask your questions, post away, please. I'd love to hear it. I want to know what questions people have, what methods people are looking for. And there you go.